Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, the big thing I will definitely tell you is that between both these devices, they're both very solid. They're both basically some of the best phones you can buy in the market right now. And I genuinely do think if you're in the market, you can't go wrong with either one of these. Is there a perfect phone between these? Not really. I mean, like I said, both these devices are great. I don't have too many crazy things to kind of complain or compare really here. But if you are in the market and if you do want to pick up any one of these devices, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside between both, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus that came out a little earlier this year on the front side of this phone is basically giving you a 6.7-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED display. Now, this panel on the front is very interesting because it is a slightly different type of panel than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So this one is a little bit smaller, but it does get brighter than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But also another very big thing here is that this type of device does give you 120 Hertz. So it's a brighter panel and you're still maintaining 120 Hertz on it, which I think is a really, really big thing to keep in mind here. So personally for me, when I'm looking at this type of phone, it gets bright, you're getting a hole punch display, fingerprint sensor in the display too. And I genuinely do think it's a very, very nice looking display when you're going to go through and pick up a phone. So from that perspective, definitely a great display. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, on the other hand, you're basically getting a 6.9-inch LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED display. So the panel on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it is, bigger. It is 2000 nits of brightness though, so not as bright, and it is a slightly lower resolution, but that's not even that big of a deal. The big thing is that the iPhone 16 Pro Max, even though it is more expensive, is giving you 600 nits less of brightness than the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus, which I think is a really big downside for that type of phone. I generally feel like Apple could have done a better job here. I guess we're going to see what happens in the future, but that was kind of a big disadvantage for that type of device when it comes down to it. So in my personal opinion, that kind of covers it up from that particular perspective. Now, on top of that, some other big things to keep in mind too. Both are giving you kind of the same type of build. So they're both giving you like this flat side around the whole entire device. You're getting USB Type-C ports on the bottom of both these phones. A big advantage for the 16 Pro Max is that you are getting the action button and the camera button on the side. So that is kind of a nice thing to have. Like if you're going to go through and use a phone, it is just a nice thing to have those types of camera buttons, just sitting there waiting for you. I haven't really used it that much, but it is a nice thing. On the back side, both are giving you triple camera setups. Both are giving you frosted glass backs, which feel and look very good as well. And on top of those things, you're also maintaining things like, wireless charging on both and IP certification. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus, though, does give you reverse wireless charging, which is a super nice feature to have. Being able to go through and just have, reverse wireless charging to be able to reverse wirelessly charge other devices is really cool. The 16 Pro Max, though, does have reverse wired charging. So definitely on the outside, I think the S24 Plus is the one that is probably the one that's more striking to me. Higher brightness, fingerprint sensor in the display, and reverse wireless charging. Those types of things I really, really like. But the 16 Pro Max is still a good display and it's a good feeling phone too. Definitely feels more premium, but the S24 Plus is the one that has more features on the outside. Now, in terms of price tag, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus right now, you can probably buy for less than $500 or $600, which is pretty crazy. The 16 Pro Max is $1,200 right now in the brand new market, but it will go down in the used market. And in the brand new market, there's only really a couple $100 difference, in the brand new market when you think about that. So from the outside, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. Now, from the camera side of things, this is also another very interesting thing going on here too. So between both, you're basically getting triple camera setups, wide telephoto and ultrawide sensors on the back sides of both, which is really nice. So when you're looking at both these types of devices, I definitely do think these two phones hold up fairly well in a majority of ways you could probably think about it. So when you're looking at both, the big thing to keep in mind is that you're able to do 4K at 60 at the front and the back, so you're able to film on those resolutions, and you're also able to go ahead and utilize all those cool features that are built in inside of both these cameras. I think a big thing to keep in mind though is that with the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus, you are kind of getting a little bit of a better, in a way you're getting this type of display or this type of camera that is basically going to be giving you a little bit of a better, resolution you can film it. You can film an 8K video on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus, whereas on the iPhone, 16 Pro Max, you don't really have that type of capability. So that is somewhat of a disadvantage. Like if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, I would say that's kind of a big downside for that type of device. I feel like Apple, again, could be giving us 8K capability here, but that is kind of where we're at as of this point. So I will still say though, with something like the, iPhone 15 Pro Max, 16 Pro Max, still a very, very good camera. But I think the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus might be the better one here for the most part. Now, in terms of the long lasting between these two and which phone is going to last longer, I really don't know. I don't think either one of these are going to last exponentially longer than the other one. The biggest thing to kind of keep in mind here is that a majority of people are probably not even going to use these phones by the time they're done getting software support. Meaning that if you're going to go through and pick up either one of these phones, it's not like you're not really gonna, I don't really think too many people are going to be owning these phones by the time that happens. So I think that's kind of one big thing to keep in mind there. Other than that, both these phones are still going to be lasting for many, many years to come. Like we're talking several more years. And like I said, by the time these phones are 5 or 6 years old, a majority of people probably aren't even going to be using these phones anymore anyways. Now, in terms of battery life, this is also something interesting. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus is giving you a 4,900 mAh battery, where the iPhone 16 Pro Max is giving you a 4,685 mAh battery. So when you're looking at both these types of batteries, once again, it could make a lot more sense for some people to go ahead and buy something like Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus, since that is kind of giving you the overall bigger size battery. So I would probably say from that side as well, that might be just another one of those things to keep in mind. Again, not the biggest deal, but just one of those small things to keep in mind there from that perspective. In terms of performance, you are basically getting the Apple A18 Pro chip inside of the iPhone 16 Pro Max with 8GB of RAM, where the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus is giving you that Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset inside with 12GB of RAM. So from this side, when you're kind of looking at these types of devices, something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus might be the overall, better performing device in some ways. Number one, more RAM on that type of device, which I always loved. But another big thing too with that type of phone is that with that type of device, for it just being, giving you that Snapdragon chipset, I've always liked Snapdragon, but the biggest advantage I would say for the iPhone side is that Pro chipset is very strong. That is a very, very good chipset to have inside of a device. And I genuinely do think if I'm going to go through and pick up a device, having that type of chipset right there is very cool. So I personally do love having a device like that. Again, it's not necessarily the most perfect device of all time, but it is a really, really good performing device on both of these. And honestly, when it kind of comes down to it, if I'm looking at both these phones, I don't really know if there's one that's exponentially way better than the other one, right? I feel like both these devices are great. The 16 Pro Max feels like $1 million phone. It looks very, very good. It performs very well. The cameras on this thing are amazing, and it has so many features built inside, and it just makes owning this phone really, really cool. But I will say on the flip side, with something like the Galaxy S24 Plus, this is one of those types of devices that I personally love, and this one has more of a flagship feel to it. It's half the cost of the iPhone 16 Pro Max in the used market, but I will say with that type of device, it is a very, very good phone for the price tag, and it feels more like a flagship. So when it comes down to it, that's kind of how I see both these phones holding up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.